pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is approval of minutes. I've read and reviewed them and looking for motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. First order of business, the conservation restriction limited fund.
So Vanessa from Essex County Greenbelt is here to go over the basics of the restrictions, and then if you have any questions, this isn't the final approval, this is just input for your comments, questions, concerns.
Thank you. Vanessa Johnson-Hall with Essex County Greenbelt Association. So this is a draft of the conservation restriction that's been approved by the landowners. So you are the first committee to vet it with the town. This conservation restriction, in summary, straddles the boundaries of North Andover and Boxford. North Andover, at their fall town meeting, approved contributing $325,000 of CPA funds towards the acquisition of a conservation restriction, and so the town will thus, Greenbelt's going to hold a conservation restriction on everything outlined in yellow that doesn't have the stripes through it. North Andover will co-hold the conservation restriction on the North Andover side only. So this conservation restriction covers the whole property, but defines North Andover's jurisdiction, so to speak, on co-holding as on the North Andover side only. So the conservation restriction is over working farm and woodlands. And so it permits the use of farmland, some expansion of farmland with permissions. It allows for greenhouses, for an indoor equestrian arena in the event the property is ever used for equestrian purposes, primarily in the cleared areas only. Again, agricultural fields can be expanded with prior permission. We are retaining the right in the conservation restriction to require a farm plan. That's because we're not farmers, and we don't want to. We want to defer to the experts to define any parameters of farming if we think that any farming activities are impairing the conservation purposes of the restriction. Right now, the brothers are just using it for haying. It's pretty minimal right now. They do plan to undertake another cut on the forested part of the premises. It is a working forest. They will do that under the auspices of forest management plan under this, which is required under the state. As part of the conservation restriction acquisition, we will be able to put in a public trail that's outlined in orange. That's sort of a preliminary trail layout. We're still ground truthing that, but Greenbelt, along with FONAT, will put in that trail and monitor it, and that will be open to the public from the end of Bruin Hill Road. So the process for approving this conservation restriction is it'll need to be approved by the town, obviously. It will also need to be approved by the state. And I think after the Conservation Commission has reviewed it, we'll probably send it to Town Council to review as well. And from there, it'll go on to state approval as well. So I'm happy to entertain questions on the conservation restriction. Oh, the other provision that is in the conservation restriction, which is not unusual for a property of this size, is, it's 120 acres. It's sort of an oddly shaped parcel. So I did suggest to the landowners that they reserve the right to divide the property into smaller parcels. The conservation restriction portion, and I suggested a limit of up to 3 different parcels. For example, what if someday a landowner wants to divide off the back part and give it to the towns? The conservation restriction would always stay in place, but maybe a future landowner won't want to deal with the public access component. So this would allow a future landowner to divide off the back portion, which has the public access component, and grant it to the towns, or to Greenbelt for that matter. Or alternately to break up the property into a couple of other lots, provided whatever division is by our approval, and the lines are in such a way that the property boundaries are done so that it doesn't impair the integrity of the agricultural fields or the wildlife habitat or the public access.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have questions?
No questions.
No?
Just a couple. Hi.
Hi.
So they're going to continue to reside there and continue to farm,
Yes.
and they'll be taking the hay as they have.
Uh-huh.
So you mentioned harvesting some forest products.
Uh-huh.
Will that happen in the area where the Yellow Hatch Trail is proposed to go?
It might. Yep.
So would it be something where the whoever's going to do the harvesting is going to need access? They're likely going to want to build at least some kind of a trail for a skidder or something to access the timber. Would it be wise to coordinate that with the location where you want the trail, so that perhaps the trail and the lumber access point are the same and not two separate access points?
That's a good point. That's a possibility. There are old forest roads, cart paths in there that they can use, and the forest is actually pretty open. So, I think if it coincided with the area they were cutting, they could do that.
I mean, typically, obviously, it's not mandatory, but typically, there's one or two vehicles that go in to
Yep.
take the timber out. They have to limit. They have to limb that timber, and then they categorize it and they haul it.
Mm-hmm.
And that generally involves, at the very minimum, a skidder with a landing area.
That's right.
So perhaps that might be something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. I like it otherwise.
Thank you.
Doug?
No questions.
Okay, so we can't move it down anyways, right?
No, this was just for comment. So some of the questions I had when Vanessa presented it were around the division, making sure that that wasn't something that would compromise the restriction. But it seems like all the provisions would stay in place. It would just be their ability to subdivide it for whatever reasons. Some of the agricultural stuff, they do preclude any factory farming of any kind. So any large-scale farming would be out. There's some limitations on the numbers of livestock without a farm plan and those sorts of things. So I think it seems very well written, and I didn't have any comments outside of asking a few questions.
Well, it's good to see you keeping it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal
It's a nice place to keep.
property.
Yeah.
Is a motion needed from the Conservation Commission for it to proceed to attorney review?
No, I think
council review?
we wouldn't vote to approve until everyone had reviewed it and we were ready to sign it.
Okay.
I think at this point. So
Okay.
I'll talk to Carol tomorrow
Okay.
and move that forward with her.
Perfect.
That seemed
Okay.
good.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all so
Thank you.
much.
All right. Thanks, Vanessa.
Next order of business is a small project in ACC 175, 108 Campion Road.
Okay. So Barbara, you should come. So you've seen Ms. Montopoli's property before. She had removed some pine trees and did a restoration plan. There's a stone wall along the 25-foot no disturb. She would now like a fence along the property line with the neighbor. It falls into the small project category. There is the right to pass and repass over an easement on her property, but the fence wouldn't block that easement. At the narrow point that you can see between the wall and where the fence would be, it would be somewhat, maybe 5 feet of passage, which is still probably good enough.
I think probably more than that. I mean, because the
wall's at
wall-
25. If you look at the wall on the bottom there, the little sort of arcing stone wall, and then their driveway retaining wall
Right.
is right across there, and your fence would be on that. So,
Right.
I mean, it's not.
Yeah,
I guess it's not any more restrictive than it already is.
Well, it's already compromised
Right.
completely, 100% by the house
Oh, you know what? I did
at
print it.
120.
Right, it is, and I did print a photo of that.
Thing is, are there any utilities in the easement?
Thought I printed a photo of that.
Probably not.
No, there's nothing. Could pass that down. Oops. Uh-oh. Fun times with technology.
It's a
says I'm connected.
5 feet.
We're having a lot of problems with it last night too, Jen.
Excellent.
Pay the bill?
Not my bill to pay.
Not yours.
Did someone else accidentally connect to the wireless? Deb, I'm just going to disconnect you for a second. I want to make sure it's not. It's saying someone else is connected. Hold on. No? Hold on, here we go again. Says it's mirroring.
Do we need it for this?
No, I think we saw what we needed to for this.
We have
So-
a photo.
Right, W, do you have any questions?
I don't.
Al?
No, I actually, none of this.
Bud?
No questions.
Do you have any motions?
Let's go back to page 1 here.
It would be to approve as an, I think it's an H?
H,
Yep.
right.
H.
Move to approve NACC number 175 as a small project H with guidelines approved by the Conservation Administrator.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
And then it would just be to approve as proposed with a post-construction inspection.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Bill signed.
Thank you.
Next one is an RDA.
Oh, wait, hold on, it should give us a code. Here we go. And we're not back. That should have worked.
Last night they had ended up doing looking up.
Oh, right. Didn't know that was an option. Are we on? Seems like it just went off.
School's out, so they shut the utilities down.
Actually, it's not. Is it? No.
You shouldn't say that. Next to the lights are going off, right?
Producer's on the phone in the box there. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, you know, before we started to display these at the meetings, we really didn't, we just went ahead with the plans before us. So
Yeah,
just
well,
throw
I
it
mean,
to
you have
and
paper of everything, so.
We have,
The next one isn't all that complicated either, so.
but I mean, we have a plan of land in front of us, prepared by Sullivan Engineering. We should, I don't know, it's up to you, but
Yep,
That's fine.
I'm good to go.
All right, we got RDA for 120 Canton Road.
and we have an engineer.
So this is an after the fact, when I was actually out on the adjacent property, which was just before you, to look at the fence location, there was an additional driveway area, which, you know, in the owner's defense, the planning board permit stated that they couldn't have any more impervious area. That's not our standard. So, oh, we're back. That's not the commission standard, obviously, so work within the buffer zone would have required a filing. And so now you have the after-the-fact filing. There's a photo in the packet showing what was done. It is, portions of it are within the 50-foot no-build zone, but driveways are allowed if there's no alternative, and clearly, you know, there's no place to put the turnaround but next to the end of the driveway. I don't think it's a major thing, other than they should have filed.
Any questions, Tim?
No question.
Just of Jen, so is this in fact retroactive filing with the
Appropriate punitive filing
appropriate
fees.
fees paid?
Correct.
So all I want to know. Thank you.
Doug?
No questions.
Motion?
I'll offer that we make a negative determination, a -3 determination with a, do you want a pre-construction or you all
It's
set?
all done.
It's all done.
Okay, -3.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. All set. Thank you, Jeff. Next one is 58 Jetwood Street.
Glenwood,
Glenwood, I'm sorry. That's what I wrote.
right neighborhood. So back in 2008, I think you had probably seen this residence when it was reconstructed post-flooding. It's at the end of Glenwood. I have a photo too to show. They would like to add a 600 square foot deck. The plan in front of you doesn't show the stairs and landing. No, the plan doesn't show, but there are stairs and landing that come off that deck. The deck portion is more than 50 feet from the wetland. Actually, now that I say that, the fence line is 45 from the wetland, so no, it's actually,
Is this what the proposal?
that's the proposal. That's a schematic, so.
Okay.
The issue here is, this is bordering land subject to flooding, so any structure that touches the ground technically displaces floodwater. I did cite the regulations for you about when compensatory storage needs to be provided. And it's technically when, in the judgment of the issuing authority, said loss will cause an increase or will contribute incrementally to an increase in the horizontal extent and level of floodwaters. I think the major thing here would be assuring that the decking of the deck is outside of bordering land subject to flooding, but I don't actually know what elevation. The first floor of the house is at 34.1 and the flood elevation is 34. So it's important to know that the decking itself is above, which that information that I currently don't
So the
have
house itself is in the floodplain?
entirely. So it has
Does it
flow
have a
through.
basement?
It's flow through
No, it's not.
construction.
No, it does not have a basement.
It does actually have a basement, but it has flow through construction, so it has, windows that basically in a flood would open and allow floodwaters to pass
Pool,
through.
in-ground pool there?
That in-ground pool is not there. This is not obviously,
That's an older schematic. That in-ground pool was filled up with, there is just lawn right now
it's
over
all,
there.
you can see from the photos, there's no
Right.
pool.
No, I mean, the
You
shows
have
that
these
the deck is
Yeah, that's
in the
what I'm
pool.
saying. Yeah.
No, that's,
So
we
that's why-
actually we were here 10 years ago, applied for the same thing, that's why you're looking at the same schematic. And it was approved 10 years ago, but we just never had
There was a
enough money to.
400 square foot deck approved under a small
Correct.
project. This is a 600 square foot deck. It is in the 50-foot no-build zone, so it does require a waiver.
Yes.
That's why it's not a small project. It's also in bordering land subject to flooding.
In the photo, however, in the schematic, it appears the only actual disturbance will be the sonotubes? Is that, am I
Yes,
saying that?
yes, sir.
That's the only actual disturbance you're gonna have?
Yes, sir. This is a couple of pictures of the actual house itself, the back of the house.
A fence also around the yard is proposed.
Yeah, I'm talking about the soil displacement, I'm talking
It's basically the.
1, 2, 3, 4 sonotubes?
And no, there are more. There's
Five.
around the side and the stairs.
And
And then,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a-
Okay, I got you.
The windows and stuff are designed for the flood.
Basically, the way it's set up right now, it's completely very dangerous. She has 3 small children, and, even the stairs, the existing stairs has no platform, it's extremely dangerous the way it is. So it's, you know, she's really concerned that we should
What
just.
is your name for the record?
I'm the old owner of the house.
Mr.
Hussein
Hussein,
Gamari.
yes.
Yes, Jennifer. Thank you.
So does this require a waiver?
Yes.
Is there a waiver application? Do you have an application for
The
it?
waiver application, I believe, is only for the fencing, because it's in the 25-foot no disturb. So I think the waiver needs to be for the,
But I mean, in other words, do we have to act separately on the waiver before we can?
we do.
Okay.
The deck as shown can't be 50 feet away because you show the fence as being 45 feet of fencing from the corner of the house out to the wetland
By the
line.
way, the fencing, it's not going to require, because of the wetland requirements and regulations, we realize that. We are not planning to put any posts over there, just basically metal sticks to hold the fence up. So basically, there is actually going to be no disturbance to the wetlands. All we're doing is just driving a metal pole right into the ground. You know, you've seen those green ones. You know, just, for fencing, there is not going to be any concrete, any tube, anything like that.
Does Deb have any questions first?
I don't have any questions.
Deb just handed me the waiver request form for this project. It says they're requesting a waiver to install a security fence along the edge of the wetland. Along the edge of the wetland.
It is at the top of the,
Also, the new deck is far away from the wetlands in 2000.
That's the edge of the.
A variance was granted in 2009. And that's signed by the applicant. That's the waiver request we have on file. Now, some of us know the neighborhood down there. We've been involved in that.
It's just a lot of wild animals going through there, as you know, like 3 young children, all under 10 years old, you know, kind of.
4 years old and 9 years old.
Yeah.
We have a playground in the backyard. So
Yeah.
we cannot use it constantly. Animals there, like deers, I have all the creatures of them,
Right.
turkeys, and they're messing with everything, my garden, the trash.
So let us try to figure out if there's a way we can help you out. We have to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. You have to find out, you have the conceptual drawing here, this one here.
Yeah.
Is that what?
For the deck itself, yes.
Yeah, is that where the
Well-
stairs gonna go?
That's not the house.
Oh, that's not the house.
Yes, it is.
It is.
It says-
That's an old photo.
It is an old photo, yes, it is an old photo.
That must be what
It is the old photo from 10 years ago, yes.
They are proposing deck. No, it's not around. It's-
no wraparound.
Is that where you're proposing to put the steps? Yeah, because they're not on the plan.
The steps, you know, it doesn't really matter. You tell us where you want us to put the steps. I think we can, you know, work our way around that.
Because that's,
As far away as possible would be
Right.
ideal.
and where it is now, it's
It's facing towards the wetland. We can completely take that out and put it on the other side. For the steps going up.
Further away is better.
Right, further away from the wetlands, yes.
well, then I'm confused.
Mary?
This should be up by Madeline Avenue on the top side, right? Madeline Ave should be here.
What
No,
should be there?
that would be,
The top is the next street, the second street,
Yeah.
Madeline, because the house is facing.
The Moblin
This
Street
is-
is like about 3 houses up.
I know,
Fairly.
but I'm saying
yeah, but
Glenwood is over here, right? Not over
No,
here.
Glenwood is this way.
It's
This is the back of the house.
Yeah.
This would be, that way would be the front of the house.
He's-
This is the back of the house.
here.
Look at the one on the screen, Lou.
Yeah, Louis. So the river's to the right.
The
That's
river's
it.
beyond the red line.
Where they're
Yeah, but
proposing.
if you're looking at the plan, the river's over here.
Yeah.
They're proposing
It's in the
this.
middle of Shawshene Avenue, actually.
Shawshene Ave.
That's the river.
It's not existing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's a-
well,
That's the river, not a road.
yeah.
All right, so the deck is, the stairs on this conceptual drawing.
Would be that blue area.
Is away, farther away.
Far away from the wetlands.
Yes, it is, it is.
That's where we would want
That's what we
them.
want.
Yep.
That's what he said this was close to the wetlands, I'm saying, no, it's
No,
not.
no, it's,
Right.
the wetlands are down here.
So would you say this plan is the way we want it, right here?
Yeah.
It doesn't show stairs,
It
though.
just doesn't show, well, it does show stairs. It does. I'm looking at stairs.
On the conceptual?
On this plan right here.
Where do you see stairs?
Right there.
Right here.
No, that's not the stairs. That's close to the wetland. The conceptual drawing that Lou is looking at
This
shows
hatched
stairs
area,
over here.
so these are not stairs?
No, that's not existing. That's not
This
existing.
here puts it farther away.
So this doesn't exist.
Correct. That's why I'm saying the plans are a little bit challenging.
I guess that's why I'm confused.
This
All right.
set of stairs
Yep.
where it is now.
So that's the proposal?
Well,
Yes,
I would hope.
yes, that would
See,
be, yes, that is.
the problem I'm having here is the plan you gave me has things on it that don't exist. so I
You're
can't-
right.
I'm having a hard time following a plan.
Right.
Yes, sir, you're right. But that's the one that gentleman, Luis has, you have.
Right.
I think that's exactly what we're planning to make over there.
All right, so Jen, one more time. The waiver is needed for the fence only?
No, the deck is in the 50-foot no-build.
The deck is in the 50?
Right. But so is the house. It was rebuilt after a flood.
No, I remember this. I remember
Yeah,
this
we don't
neighborhood.
have, we don't have a permit on it, though. It was technically supposed to be built on the existing foundation, but that didn't occur.
Actually, it did.
Well, but it's a
They
new
did.
foundation.
It
It's a
is
brand-new
Yeah,
foundation.
the town did not allow us to change the footprint of the foundation.
Do you have any questions?
No, not really.
So can I have, do you have the waiver?
Yeah. Where
Yeah, right there, I think it is.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, because we have to grant the waiver first.
Right, so we gotta move on the waiver first.
Right. But the waiver is there.
I think we need,
Well, it
we
says-
need,
it
I think we
says-
could use
Have the deck.
a better,
Or do we need a better plan?
I think we need a better plan. I think we
Right.
need a plan that whites out things that don't exist on the property. I think we need to know the actual elevation of the deck.
So can we give them an action list of what we need and they can bring it back next meeting?
Right.
Can you do that? Bring us a better plan that has,
Sure, but the height of the deck is going to be the first level, which is
we
9
need
feet.
the plan with setbacks?
Yes.
We need to know how far the deck is going to be from the edge of the wetland.
You have a stamped plan here? So we need a stamped plan with setbacks and actual in-kind conditions with proposals?
Yes.
That's what we need. We can't work off what you have.
Yes, I already know Mr.
You
Sullivan
work
from
with
the
Mr.
past.
Sullivan?
Yes, I have.
You know.
So he knows.
You know.
I can help him, I gave him my card.
There you go. All right, good.
The
Yes,
question is on the deck too, you say it's
Beautiful.
level with the first floor, but
Yes.
it's step down
Yes.
from the doorway, that drops
Yes, right now it's very dangerous,
it
yes.
drops it into the floodplain calculation, because now it's below the height of the plane.
I think it's de minimis. We just need some kind of
Better-
summary of what's in the floodplain and how much, so that,
And also a little better description of the fence than just, you can put poles and.
Sounds like Mr. Sullivan's gonna help him.
Yeah.
I think
You
he-
can put a chain link fence up?
Yeah, just a chain, yeah, regular metal fence
Right.
with metal sticks, no poles, because I know that would be too close to the wetland at that point, so we don't want to disturb any groundwork. But, basically, it's just that fence around the edge of the river, edge of the wetland,
I know
and basically
what you're-
the
edge of the property, not down in the wetland, up at the top of the hill.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Well,
ma'am.
that's what we have to know that, and we have to know what, when you just come before us and say, we're gonna propose up, at some point down the road, we have to have a record to go with the plan.
Correct.
So we can't just,
Yes, I couldn't, unfortunately, Mr. Sullivan had changed his telephone number from 10 years ago. I tried very hard to find
Would you
him.
all, in addition to a revised plan with the information we need, would you also please redraft your waiver request so that the waiver request shows alternatives if they exist, or an alternatives analysis to tell us if they don't exist? I think the waiver alternatives analysis is almost more important than everything else you're talking about here. If you'd please do that.
Yes.
And we're gonna continue here for 2 weeks?
I think we're actually continued for 3 weeks. We have a 3-week meeting gap. to
What's the next date?
meeting.
Just tell me the date.
July 8th, I believe.
7, 8? So I move that we continue this till July 8th, 2016.
Thank you.
Also the waiver for the
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
We need a waiver for the deck as well.
Yes, I'll make sure they have it. So,
July 8th is a Friday.
no, we have July 13th, sorry.
July 3rd.
I amend my motion to July 13th.
Second.
All those in favor say
Thank you.
aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Okay, we'll see you on the 13th of July.
Thank you so much.
All right,
you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Next one is 30 Gray Street.
This is also an after-the-fact filing. This was a, I have to find, sorry, hunting over here. So this, I was on Gray Street for something else when I noticed, you have the photo of the walkway all dug up, but there was also a new exit and stairs constructed. When I stopped by, the contractor immediately went out and got some erosion controls, installed them around the edge of the driveway, so the soil you see stockpiled on the driveway didn't go anywhere. I put out a couple flags along the edge of there's a small channel, I would say, adjacent to the home. Did you give me, you mailed your green cards in, right?
Yes, yes. Any questions, Deb?
No.
No.
What's the status of the project?
Walkways installed. We're doing planting some grass seed and some plants in the front of the house, but everything else, the construction is all complete.
Erosion control still in place?
It is.
Jen, do you consider it to be done, or does it need to?
I would do a post-construction, when I'm assuming you'll approve the project, but it would need a post-construction inspection when everything was stabilized.
So what are you looking for us from, right now? You're looking to, you want?
It would need to be permitted as a
Number 3.
Negative.
negative number 3.
All right, no other questions right now.
Motion?
I'll move that we consider this to be a negative 3.
Just, he did request a waiver of the triple filing fees.
It's a retroactive file?
It is a retroactive filing.
I'm not interested in waiving any fees, sorry. I don't know how the rest of the commissions, you can poll everyone.
No, I understand. I did include a letter. I don't know if that was provided, but it was just a request because, it was just a lack of not knowing any better, so.
Understood.
My apologies.
No, we usually don't, because then we're gonna get a whole can of worms, which is we're consistent with all applicants, that's usually what we do. Because everybody, not that you're saying we're playing a card, but everybody could come in and play this card as after the fact. And that's the only way we've been able to stop these after the fact modifications and small projects that people just think they can build. And, oh, I didn't know. Well, that's why we have departments that we have, that we're paying to, you go to. So, generally, we don't.
So do we need a motion on the waiver?
Yes. Yes, he did request.
All right, so I'll move that we do not waive the filing requirement.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That's unanimous.
And then accordingly, I'll move that we consider this to be a negative 3 determination. With a pre and post? Post?
Just a post.
Just a post, no pre, obviously.
Second.
Post. Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks.
Jen, this is just kind of a general question. Aren't we getting a lot more of after-the-fact filings?
Well, we have 2 on this agenda, but that isn't standard. I'd say it's usually one a month kind of thing is the worst, I would say.
Okay.
2 is a little maybe out of the ordinary, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's the usual.
Next one is 40 Wildwood Circle.
And I'm Ray Thompson, I'm the owner of the property.
Hold on, Mr. Thompson, did you give us your notifications to abutters?
I did not. I have them all right here.
Yeah, I'll just take those.
The notice is 2 sets because the first set went out.
Oh, doing filings. So Heidi did some photos for this one. Heidi did this one because she had interacted with the applicant. There is a prior filing on the property, and it does have a certificate of compliance. The, let me just pull this up somewhere in here. Hopefully. Maybe not. No, Heidi may not have sent me this one, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory in that it's just an above-ground pool. His issue is that he has
want to see the picture,
he has wetland on all sides. And one of the sides, the side that's most applicable to have the above-ground pool, which is the back of the house, the wetland contains a vernal pool, so it sets the subzones farther. He is proposing a non-backwashing pool, and you have granted waivers, I would say, for much more elaborate and, permanent in-ground pools in the subzone, the 75-foot no-build zone. So I find this waiver approvable. The alternatives basically would put the pool in the front yard or closer to a wetland resource area within 45 feet of a wetland not containing a vernal pool. So Heidi didn't scan this one in, so I don't have it.
Do you have the waiver?
It should be in the packet, but if not, then
Do you have any questions,
That
Deb?
might have gone by it.
No questions.
Yeah, Louis, I apologize, I just wanted to take a look at the request.
did you you all have this in the,
Yeah.
Yes, in the front is where the septic is in the front, and also the electricity comes in underground.
and there's a well that's also
Okay.
a setback.
Waiver request is appropriate.
Okay. Okay, you have any questions?
No questions, no.
I have just a couple. The well is the well already in?
Yes, I purchased a house in 2008. The house was built in ~83.
So it's not being impeded by the pools? That's-
No, the shed is the only issue.
Yeah, we were trying to figure that out today when I was with the height, where you could put it.
Well, I had a shed company come out, and it looks like I'm going to put it in small pieces in a dumpster, so.
So it's twofold, not worth saving it.
Well, there's a fence line up pre-existing, there's landscape features, so it'll do a lot of damage just to get it out of the backyard, and then to move it to any other location, it's just gonna tear up everything,
Okay.
so.
No question.
Thanks, we need a motion for the waiver.
So I will move that we find the waiver to be appropriate and find that there is no alternative, and I move that we approve the waiver.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
So Heidi recommends a positive 2A for confirmation of the wetland flags on the property and the buffer zone on the property, and a negative number 3 with pre- and post-construction inspection and wetland markers.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. You're all set.
Thank you very much, have a good evening.
You too. Next one is 242-1681, 384 Osgood Street.
So, oh, great, two site plan revised, I get to figure out.
Did you qualify?
Pardon me?
Did you qualify?
Did I qualify for?
Oh, I was told you were at firearms training.
Oh, no, I'm running it.
Oh,
I'm the armorer. It's kind of like what I have to go every day. It's not bad work if you can get it.
So which plan revision are we looking for?
Number 2.
This is May 6/14?
621.
621, it's in the upper right-hand corner.
Okay, so I got the wrong, I have 2 saved in here, so I'm now realizing
Should be that one, I think. That has 2 dates on the right side.
Excellent.
Which one are we looking at?
If you look at the upper right-hand
Yeah.
side,
We
it's a
just got
revision logs.
a revision in today, so that's what they're going to present to you, Lisa. So initially, when I sent you your packets, I sent you another plan revision and their response to comments. Lisa was kind enough to get a response back to those comments, and they were quick in the turnaround and got a set back to us.
Okay.
So,
I think I have it.
but this is a new presentation to me and to you. We haven't, I generally know what's included, but they'll be presenting to you tonight.
Yeah, Lisa provided follow-up comments on Monday afternoon, and this was revised yesterday based on the comments that Lisa provided.
Has all her issues been addressed?
Well, I think that's what you're going to hear
Yes.
tonight.
For the record, Richard Cutts from Linden Engineering, site engineer for the project. And we did, albeit there were like 6 or 7 follow-up issues, we considered them minor in what was being asked, and we've directed, and the plans have been reflected to change that. And if you don't mind, I can just go through each plan really simple. Basically, the cover sheet, one of the comments was about snow storage, and we've identified a note number 11 about snow storage. And then there was a question of, there's an existing culvert that's right across here, and the property owner, the DPW, is going to check the integrity and make sure it's clean. And that note has been added. Then there was a concern, because the project is 2 parts, the base work is the front section, the back section is a bit alternate. If that gets accepted, the whole site will alter under a SWIP. It will require a SWIP. So we put a note in the top of every single drawing, except for the detail sheets, that says that that would be required. A SWIP will be required, and that's on every drawing that's been revised. So again, the orange. One of the other things is the back of the site, if you've been to the site, behind the existing salt shed, there's 3 tiers of concrete blocks. Each block is roughly 2 feet by 2 feet high by 6 feet long. There's 114 of them. So the plan is, what we're using those is demarcate around where, if you go out there right now, there's a Jersey barriers that are around here. The Jersey barriers will be moved. There'll be siltation control, temporary. Then these blocks will be stacked 2 high, continuous around this section right here. That'll eat up about 70 of the blocks. And inside of that will be a silt sock. So Filtrex silt sock will be between there as a permanent erosion control, always to be maintained, changed yearly, whatever. And then the Jersey barrier is put. So there's a little more defense than what's out there as far as anything in the DPWI going towards the wetland that's established right on that edge. We also had heard from Jennifer about there's some issues with some migrating towards the inland wetland that's right here. There's an IVW that's in here. So what we propose is, again, using some of these blocks, single layered, basically 2 feet apart, and set them right in this area on the plan that will use up all the blocks but provide a barrier, still allowing drainage to go to the wetland, letting everything function. And the other item that we did is we've actually changed the drainage system, which I can get to, but it involves a new riprap apron here at the existing, where the existing pipe is. The current pipe, as far as we know, has no riprap right there, so we're proposing it in that location. That's essentially the changes on this drawing. We have renumbered, just to make it simple for record keeping. All the drawings have been revised to this date, every one, whether they were changed or not. So when they get referenced, so for instance, the front demolition plan, no changes. 2A. As far as 2B, there was a question, a contractor might not understand where the blocks are coming from, so we've actually highlighted in this drawing where the blocks come from to build that wall. And again, you can't kind of see it, but up in this corner is that same one saying a SWIP is required.
Can I just stop you there? Because there's 2 SWIPs that we need to talk about. One is the SWIP that if you disturbed the back portion of the site
Right.
would be the more than an acre,
That's right.
and they would have
It's a construction.
the requirement, but the DPW actually has a SWIP for the site, and that needs to be upgraded regardless.
Correct.
I just want to distinguish between the two, so,
Yeah.
thanks.
Same discussion last night at the planning board.
Okay.
So again, with this particular plan, the only change was adding that and again showing the new revision date. As far as this is also, the note was added about snow storage for the front part of the portion. And again, that note about the SWPPP. Again, on, this one is the site layout. We show you exactly where these concrete blocks will be used. This way, first off, the town gets to use them in a beneficial way. You don't have to pay a contractor to ship them off. And it's a way to really create a real barrier out there. As far as the front section, the grading there's no changes to what was originally proposed with the original plans. As far as the back, there's no change, again, in grading on the back. The riprap, which we're almost at because we're coming to the drainage system.
So, okay, the riprap ends at the wetland line now, though, right? There's
No, it's actually down into it. And
Okay, so DEP has commented that they would like the riprap out of the wetland.
Say that again?
DEP comments said, please bring back.
well, they asked if possible,
If
quote
possible.
unquote, if possible, take the riprap out of the BBW. However, and I'm almost there if you want.
Okay.
Again, note on 5A was about the snow storage, about the owner checking the pipe that's here. The real change was in the back here. Your existing pipe right now is out in the BBW, the end of the pipe where it is now. What we're proposing is to change that pipe. We're proposing with the change of the system, there's a couple of things. On the side of Wayne Street, you have 3 existing catch basins. There's one in front of the DPW building, which shows on the prior sheet 5A. There's an existing catch basin here and one here. This catch basin right now has a 24-inch pipe into it from the hill and a 24-inch pipe out of it, plus 2 12s in. So it's really acting as a manhole and not as a catch basin. So what we're proposing here is on the line of this one, we're going to propose a double catch basin inlet, which is a little better for drainage down from the gas pump stations in this area. It's more where it should be contour-wise. We're proposing to cover, just plate over with a real drain manhole cover, the existing catch basin that really is a manhole. We have temporary silt sacks here in the new one and this one, and we'll put in eliminator hoods will be proposed in these 3 structures. So we're gonna do the initial catch. The pipe itself, which is proposed to be reviewed for structural integrity and cleaning, is outlined right here. What we're proposing to do, before we had a single catch basin, a double catch basin into a storm scepter out with a new discharge out into the river. We've decided not to do that. What we're proposing here is to actually connect into the main drain, which magically changes from a 24-inch to a 36-inch, somewhere in here. So we've designed it so that it's a 36 as far as we're concerned. You can always go smaller. Collected these through manholes and then put a storm scepter in. It's a large STC 2400. It's capable of treating 5.4 CFS flow. Coming through from our site is about 2 CFS. So what we're providing, while that's a large unit, we're going to provide some cleaning of the off-site systems that you don't have right now. Everything right now that gets into this pipe goes right into the river. Because when you design one of these STCs, they have to have a drop across of 1 inch. This pipe is laid so flat, there isn't an inch. So what we propose to do is we're actually going to put a new pipe at the end, therefore we can lower it 1 inch so that we can get the inch across the storm scepter. This is also located in pavement, just so you know, so it's easy to get to, it's easy for maintenance. And then go out, and the end of the pipe that we're proposing, which is a new 36-inch pipe, it'll be an HDPE, And we're showing the riprap here, and typically, I've always designed that my riprap goes 10 feet beyond the end of the pipe. Now granted, the velocity out of here is gonna be less than 3 feet per second in a 100-year storm, based on the pipe flowing full. The slope of this is .0004, 3 zeros and a 4, so it's virtually flat. It'll be pushed out this way. We can, like I said, the BVW is right here, so the pipe itself currently is out in the BVW. And we're proposing to go on, and we put dimensions on here because it was a little, you'll see, Lisa had put in a dimension of like 36 feet or whatever. Not sure how, but our plans clearly show 10 feet out from the pipe. And we also go up and wrap the pipe with riprap typically, so we show 6 feet back that's kind of up on the slope. We can pull this back. If you have a problem with the length of this, we think it makes good engineering sense to put a riprap apron at the bottom of a large pipe. But if you'd rather see it, we can back it off to 5 feet, we can eliminate it. Right now, we don't believe there's any out there at all. So that's kind of what the overhead, one of the questions here that's kind of out there. From an engineering point of view, I've been designing for 40 years, I'd go 10 feet out.
Is that
temporary disturbance?
Is that the thing DEP's talking about?
Yes, and there's not two of them. The one on the other end, the riprap here, the flagging that's occurred across here actually goes straight across from wing wall to wing wall, doesn't follow the wing wall. So as a result, we've designed that to be 6 feet by 4 feet, so it sits, and again, the velocity coming out of here, even the roof drainage in this little parking lot is so minor. Again, just to me, it makes common sense to have some riprap. That doesn't alter any BVW. So the only one that would is, and again, we're saying it's a temporary disturbance for this one.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Isn't the riprap typically used for high rate of flow?
Yes.
But I heard you say previously that the rate of flow wasn't that great here.
It's not.
3 something.
It's not, but you just, I just like it as a measure. I mean, 10 feet out is, usually you'll see a typical flared end section that has it. It goes out 15 to 20 feet, it splays out. We're not proposing that here at all.
Yeah.
This is a total, this pipe member is 36 inches out wide, and we're proposing an apron 10 feet. So it's only 3 feet either side.
Are you anticipating the rate of flow to increase there?
No. No,
I mean,
because
any chance that there would be more erosion in the future? Is that?
there could be. The biggest thing is this will let DPW, which has to clean this now forever and ever, be able to find it and go and see it. Now, I understand that, and maybe I could defer to Jennifer, who has actually been here in low water, and has, I think, Jennifer, you said
I
you
have
looked
seen
in
it.
this pipe. There's no riprap. Is there any evidence of scouring? In other
No.
words, at the bottom of this?
It's heavily vegetated, so there's no
Even with the
scouring.
erosion stone in there, it's gonna vegetate itself anyways.
I would-
I'm in agreement with the engineer.
Yeah.
It's always good to have, I always like erosion stone.
You like it too?
I do too.
All right. Okay.
I think we could have it and be fine. I don't,
Yeah, I mean, because it's gonna get overgrown anyway.
what's that?
It's not harming the well.
No.
No.
No. And that includes any erosion potentially
Gotcha.
with nothing there coming out of that pipe.
So if the CFS increased, you get the built-in protection of the river?
Exactly.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, and if you look strategically, the water that's coming into this area, I mean, it basically puddles in the wetlands first before it even goes to
Right,
these.
so there's
And
never
then
gonna
goes
be any
across, so
problem.
there's a staging here where the actual the new pavement will be probably already out in the river. If you look at a time of how the flows will go. Again, this one tells about the owner checking this structural integrity there.
I think at the highest rate of flows, the pipe's gonna be underwater, so
Yeah,
flow out is not gonna be a problem.
Gotcha.
right, it'll still be under pressure, so it will.
Yeah, it won't backflow, but I'm just saying, it's not gonna,
Is it gonna back up?
No, if anything, it's
We're gonna have a Glenwood
If
sewer
anything, it'll
system.
flood the DPW parking lot.
well, the
No, I-
DPW parking lot's already in land subject to flooding, so it's not.
Details,
Does that pipe need cleaning?
no, that's why we put it on the drawing.
Sediment in the pipe?
We put that on the drawing, it's the responsibility before any construction, DPW or the owner has to have it checked structurally and make sure it's clean. Before
It
any.
hasn't been checked.
It has not
Yet?
been checked. The answer is no. At this point, no.
But they condition it themselves.
Well, they can. That question is whether there's a lot of sediment in it. If
Well,
it's
if there is,
flat
it'll be cleaned
and
out.
no flow, then
It'll have to be cleaned out.
it may have sediment in it.
I don't know how the pipe goes from a 24 on this side to a 36 on that side, but it's a DPW area. I mean,
We've seen that before.
well,
That's not a mystery.
Oh, that's right. At least it went the right way.
Okay.
The smaller, the larger. Detail sheets that were changed, there was a question, if you look at the original office building, we have a stone drip strip around. It was kind of thought as that 18-inch drip strip would be used for recharge into the ground, sort of like a, it's not, it's an architectural feature to keep vegetation from being against the building. And basically, so what we did was, we had called it a stone dike, so we changed the title. So the title and the detail is the same as the title in the drawings, which is a crushed stone round cover. That's all that is, edged with steel. We deleted, we had some out in the back, we had some regular ground cover that was just gonna be gravel, compacted gravel. It was thought, from the operation point of view, from the back of a DPW, that's not the best thing to do. So we deleted it, and as a result, that was taken off, and we eliminated that detail on the sheet.
Where is the planting plan?
That's in the very last, that's it's the very last drawing. You want me to
It is?
wait? It's-
I'm on the last drawing.
Yeah, it's not it's a separate drawing right here. It's a separate one that was done with Dale Design, the landscape architect.
I just realized I meant to check that all the plants were native, and I did not, but that's something I can do before we draft the order.
Okay, but that was at the back. After, we have, the one previous to that is actually the existing topo, and then the one prior to that was the actual property line of the property.
Gotcha.
What we did here on detail sheet 6C, we added the STC 2400, we added a drain manhole, which we didn't have before. Under the catch basin, we called out, it was a recommendation by your peer reviewer to use an eliminator brand hood, and that's what's being changed to note that. And that's actually, that was all the changes that were to the plans.
Thank you. Deb? No?
I'm good, though. Thank you.
No,
Okay. I'm good too?
So I think at this point, Lisa needs to, since these were just submitted, to comment back that she has no further comments, which, given what was presented, seems like everything is addressed. She's more particular, so we'll wait to hear from her.
Do you recommend continuing to the next meeting?
Well, I think
Pending
we
the
have to
final?
continue, we have 3 weeks, but I do intend to draft an order of conditions, and I'm assuming with 3 weeks' time, Lisa can probably work out any final details if there needs to be a new plan set. Planning is still open, also intending, I believe, to draft a decision for the next meeting.
That's correct.
So-
Their meeting is Tuesday the 5th.
Right, so they'll meet a week ahead of time, so we'll know ahead.
Because generally, we don't like to close hours until planning is done, because they
Right.
can change it and, you know,
Yeah, the
change
only-
parking area and paving.
Well,
and changes
the
everything.
only issue with planning is the lack of parking spaces. So their report is going to focus that the town will investigate discontinuing Wayne Street. And the question now is whether we even own Wayne Street, because it's never been accepted. So we're doing a title search and whatever, but we'll, as I told them last night, it could be a matter of a month or two, but if I need town meeting vote, then I need to wait till May.
Ouch. Okay.
We'll have a special town meeting.
Yeah, I'll wait till May.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we need to continue.
Your call, buddy. So, move to continue.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
242, 1682, 11680, 56 candles. Candlestick.
Okay, so this is a new filing. Proposal is for an addition, and there are some photos from the site. I spoke with Jack earlier today. There is an open order of conditions on this site, DEP 242, number 50. Always fun when you get into, single and double digits in our filings.
Circa 1978.
Yeah, something like that, probably the 80s. But, so they need a PCOC before we can issue them a new order of conditions, but granted that we've just started here, that's probably not a big deal. The site appears to be pretty much the same as it probably always was. The only thing I found when I went out there was a couple decades worth of brush dumping in different locations. No one giant brush dump, but lots of piles, Christmas trees and whatnot. So that, I'm sure, can be handled pretty easily. I'll let Jack present the details.
Great. Do you mind zooming in on?
I'm trying. I don't know what happened here. Oh, here we go. I guess that's as good as it gets. That's okay.
Okay. For the record, Jack Sullivan, Sullivan Engineering Group, and I'm representing Jim and Melissa Martin, and Jim's in attendance tonight. They're basically looking to do 2 additions to the home. There'd be a proposed addition off the side of the house with a 2-car garage under. There's an existing garage under the house now with some decking above it that will be removed. And then to the rear, they're looking to add, I believe that's a deck in the back.
A sunroom.
A sunroom, thank you, thank you. I just got back from vacation today, so I'm trying to be up. But so there's a sunroom. I put in on the notice of intent application, I showed these as 2 different category 1A items, so the fee was provided as such. I do show some pavement area to be removed. That's the darker area there next between the addition and the sunroom. And that area will be loamed and seeded. So there will be some impervious area removed for this project. I tried to show a proposed soil stockpile area out towards the front of the property. You can see between the driveway and where the septic field is on the right front yard of the property, there's existing trees. Those will all remain, and some of them are pretty good sized trees. All the work's going over previously disturbed areas. Norse Environmental did do the wetland flagging for this site. The closest point to the addition of the wetland is 51 feet, so we're right basically at your 50-foot no structure setback, but I did talk with Jennifer, and she said the flags did look correct in the field, that there were no adjustments needed. I showed where the limit of work line would be. I'm showing proposed stake hay bales back with silt fencing to be used along the limit of work line. No trees are to be cut as part of this project, and all the grading changes are limited less than 6 inches. Basically, we're going to match in, and the sunroom's going to be constructed on piers, on sonotubes. So the only full foundation will be where the addition's going with the 2-car garage under, and that's over a paved area to begin with. This site is on septic, but there's no bedroom increase, so they won't have to do anything for upgrading the septic system. And that's basically it. I'll turn it over to the commission for any questions they might have.
Thank you. Deb? All set.
On the garage addition, roof drainage, roof runoff, how are you going to capture that?
I had originally thought of putting it into some sort of dry well. In fact, I had talked about, I was reviewing my emails before this, and originally I said we should definitely give a dry well since we're right at the 50-foot setback line. I think maybe I didn't show that because I looked at the removal of the driveway, some of the driveway area as mitigation for drainage. But the client is open to a dry well. We could do a dry well for the roofed addition.
Just because it would just sheet flow over the driveway likely.
Right.
rather than have that, if you don't mind
They're
capturing.
open to that.
Good.
We're fine. It was something they had agreed to, and I think I pulled it back with the removal of the pavement, but they're open to it.
Very good. Okay, thanks. All set, Mr. Chairman.
Doug?
No question.
So we can close this? or-
Where were you, Jen?
We can't
This-
close just because of the 3-week meeting gap, but I will draft, and you can get me a revised plan with, or do a dry well detail, and however
Yeah.
you want to do
Oh,
it.
you're gonna put the dry well where you're digging up the
I'll-
pavement, right?
Yeah, I'll show where the dry well will go, and I'll provide a detail. And I just had one question on the PCOC. The house was built in 1983, I believe, and the Marnes purchased in 1999. The original order, where they're not the owners, do I just make the request with them as the applicant
We
making
have
the request?
some, I think, yeah, so they can be the requesters, and we have some kind of as-built in the plan, in the file.
Yep.
I think it only required some kind of topo and some kind of condition for not altering the stream. We can look at it, but
Okay,
I think it's basically just gonna be filling out the form and paying the fee.
okay,
And someone should have caught it years ago, of course, but, didn't always happen, so.
okay.
Um,
So but it should be a partial we're looking for, not?
Right, because
not
there
a-
were 3 lots as part of this
Oh, okay.
particular filing, so
Okay.
they would only be a partial.
Okay,
PCOC specific.
okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. And we'll bring the fee in prior to the hearing. I'll get it to Jennifer.
Okay, great. All right, motion to continue.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next one is 242 Noah, BP number 0 Rogers Street.
Which one is it?
0
Edgewood.
Oh, Edgewood.
Getting my photos back every time here.
Edgewood.
Good evening.
All right, here we go. So I gave you all an 11 by 17 of this in your packets. So you can present yourselves and
Good evening, my name is David Mermelstein, I'm with Trident Group. We're acting as the owner's project manager for the expansion of the Edgewood Retirement Community. And I'm David Jordan from MHF Design Consultants, the surveyor for this project.
so Mark West did the delineation, and I went with Mr. Mermelstein and Mr. West and reviewed the wetland line. Because there's a fee associated with reviewing the wetland line, we only reviewed the portions of the line that are pertinent to what they propose to do with the property, but I asked them to show everything, because if at some point there's a restriction or some protections on the rest of the property, we'd still be interested in knowing where all the wetlands are. So the portions that were reviewed were at the front part of the site, the A series was A1 through A25. And at the smaller wetland at the back, it was D8 through D17. That wetland tends to fall behind the first wetland, and there would be no work to occur in between, although none of this is, for any proposed work. There is a vernal pool within the A-series wetland. It isn't highlighted, but it is labeled on the plan if you look closely. There were a couple flag moves on this, nothing significant, and everything in front of you reflects the plan changes since we continued from the last time. The only other thing that we reviewed, I don't know if you want to point it out, Dave, there's a swale that's off
Yes.
the property. It's on the Edgewood proper property. It runs along the roadway into the property.
Bottom there, yeah.
Yep. And nope,
Actually, it's right.
it goes that way. And if you recall, it goes over to the preschool. And so the swale that starts up at the top at the parking lot for Half Mile Hill and goes down to the preschool, Mark and I looked at, we did soils on both sides of the wall and looked at vegetation. There is wetland vegetation on the Half Mile Hill side. There is no wetland vegetation in the swale. So Mr. West did do up a memo because you had previously called that wetland in the Edgewood development. We looked at it specifically, and they're asking that no longer be considered wetland.
What's the function of it? What does it do? Does it transmit stormwater? I mean, it has to be doing something.
It does, it's relatively dry, but I would guess its former purpose was probably to drain the hayfield. So water comes through the wall into the swale.
I mean, there may be a tile coming into that from the hill.
But there's nothing that makes it a wetland. No vegetation, no soils. It has hydrology, but hydrology alone doesn't make it a wetland, so.
It's something.
It is
It's
something.
not a wetland.
They're
but
not
it's something.
proposing to alter it, but it wouldn't cast a buffer zone
Well, they're not
onto
proposing
future work.
anything. They're just looking for an IDA here. They're not
Right.
proposing anything. But what will come later is going to determine what we do tonight.
Yep. I mean, it serves a stormwater function. To alter stormwater, they'd have to do something different to deal with those flows. But right now, there's no proposal. They were just looking to take that out of the equation as something that casts buffer zone on the project.
No, the request is not lost on me. This is an ANRAD. I get what this is. Once we buy into this line, we own it.
Right.
So that's why I'm asking now, because
Mhm.
I can't ask next week if we close it tonight.
Yep.
So you don't feel that there's any further need to look at that for any reason? And why does it have to come out? What's the problem with leaving it where it is?
It would cast a buffer zone onto the property. It's just not, it doesn't, I asked them to look at it specifically because at the bottom of Half Mile Hill, there's a big patch of sensitive fern. So just knowing that what we were delineating for, which is, potential access to this parcel, which is at the top of the parking lot, we needed to look at it. If there's wetland there, they needed to know, and they needed to put it on the plan. So we did. We augured in that area, and there's no wetland. I guess you don't really need to make a determination because it's not wetland. It's not going to be shown as wetland when they do the plan. They can put swale or ditch or whatever. It doesn't become wetland until it intersects with water that comes out through a drainage area on the preschool site, which we have called jurisdictional.
Right.
So I guess there really is, the delineation for Edgewood is expired. So it's technically not anything until you call it something. So when you put it on the plan, you just don't need to call it wetland.
Correct.
I guess he was just trying to certify that with some documented evidence.
I guess I'm more asking you than the applicant, because I understand what the applicant's goal is. That's not lost on me.
I
But
asked
you're our
them-
scientist, so that's...
So correct, and I asked them to look at it, and after I explored it with Mark, doing soil augering, looking at the vegetation and looking at, what's happening in that swale, I would say it's not wetland. It doesn't qualify as wetland. There's no scientific evidence to call it a wetland.
That's fine, but it is considered stormwater.
It is part of the stormwater management system in that area.
So I would not change it.
No one's proposing to change it.
Okay, so
It just doesn't have a buffer zone.
So what you're saying is with respect to the ANRAD, you don't want to call it a resource area?
There's no reason to put it on the plan. It's not a resource area.
Well, other than to identify it as an existing condition?
It doesn't even need to go on the plan because they only delineated this property. My concern was, it's in this corner where the little jog is on the left-hand side of the plan. You can see the stone wall.
I
It's
see.
right there. So if it were a wetland, it needed to be on this plan.
Yep.
And we determined that it's not. Mark wrote a letter. I guess the concern was, you all lived through this project, you reviewed a wetland line, you knew it was there, you've seen it before, but it's not on this plan, and that's why.
And that's what we're trying to do, is just clarify it, so that if somebody looked at the prior plans and said there was a wetland here, why don't you show it on this plan? This is the reason why.
Well, I think if that's if Jen tells me there's no science behind it, I believe her. I think that it does have some purpose as something. It needs to be identified as something. It's not just going to be filled in and go away.
No.
So if we don't identify it somehow, we're basically telling you that, okay, it doesn't exist, do whatever you want. So how do we protect that interest?
I don't know that from what's shown on the plan, you actually catch the swale in the survey.
I think it's quite shallow.
Until it
in
hits-
this area. Or actually, it doesn't exist in this area.
Right, that's what I'm
It's
saying.
further downstream.
So when they do plans and they have an actual development, I guess what you need to know is it needs to show.
Sure.
Yeah, we can just list as a
Call it out.
potential stormwater
Yeah, call it out.
attachment.
I think part of the confusion with this particular strip is when Edgewood did their last expansion, and part of the condition was to improve the trail to Half Mile Hill, or the access point to Half Mile Hill and the trailhead there. There was some grading we actually cleaned up the swale through there, and in doing that, it may have been cleaned up probably more than it needed to be, but, so it's now really defined where.
It was part of the O&M plan. Remember, we made them take all the leaves out of it. They lined it with
Got it.
mesh,
Yeah.
and they made it function better because it was backing up in locations.
But
so.
I think it actually back pitches.
Right,
towards
it's an odd thing, but it'll be on their future plans, I'm sure.
Okay.
All right. Do you have
Awesome.
any questions?
That's it, that was my,
Motion?
So-
We don't have a DPD continue.
Oh, yeah, did you have any luck with,
I called them every day for over a week, multiple times on certain days, emails into them. I have a cleared check.
and check clear. Yeah, they're saying the
But
check didn't
They're
clear.
saying the check didn't clear, and I
Yeah.
can't get anybody to respond, so I will go down and knock on their door tomorrow.
I feel your pain.
I was begging today.
Yeah.
Well, I guess,
But we wanted to present the case, or present the plan, and we know that you can't close it without the number.
Right.
That's maddening, you have the check.
I have the
Yeah,
whole check.
so, I mean, I guess what you know going forward is that you pretty much have an approved wetland line. You
They don't
just,
care, they get the money.
you need the formal document, which you'll
Sure,
probably get in
so-
3 weeks.
So we'll continue this for the 13th,
3 weeks. yeah.
3 weeks?
And she'll have, no.
Yeah, it would just be,
Okay,
if you got a number,
but I'll plan on attending or.
You won't need to attend, we'll just issue it and they'll
Okay.
sign it. There's, I don't, if they don't have any questions now, they won't have any questions in 3 weeks.
well, this is a pretty technical request. I mean, it's a science request.
Yeah,
It's not
there's no-
something, we're not, if our scientist doesn't challenge it, we're not gonna challenge
Okay.
it.
Well, we did,
We did,
we
yeah.
talked plenty in the field and made plenty of change, not plenty, but, you know, a half dozen, and then it was good.
Jen, we rely upon your auger out there.
Yeah, oh, we made Mark do most of the digging.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we need to continue.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, that's unanimous. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.
See you guys.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Okay, general business, 242-16, number 3, COC request at 350 Radford Street.
So, the only issue with this, he did what he needed to do with the drip trenches. And here's the photos of the drip trenches. And then, this was pointed out when we first presented this, but the structure was supposed to be 54 feet from the wetland, and it's about 51 and a half feet from the wetland. That change was pointed out in the engineer's letter to us. It's still outside of the 50-foot no-build zone. There was a roof overhang constructed. We don't necessarily get the architectural, so I can't say that we knew that was going to be part of the footprint, but the drip trench now catches that runoff.
Is there any particular reason why it was moved 2.5 feet?
The only thing I can think of is, remember when we had some discussion about where the access would be, because it was kind of in a hill, but
Right.
they were going to try to keep it on the flat so they didn't have to do any grading, so potentially that it was just located slightly off from, or rotated to stay away from that hill. It's the only, because I think we went out there and
Yeah,
discussed it with him, but maybe that sort of gave him the impression there was a little more leeway than there really was. It was done over a long period of time, you know, it didn't happen in like your typical quick done sort of thing, so it was kind of harder to keep track of.
You know, and like I said, normally, you know, we would make them file an after-the-fact modification, but it's too late
I think
now.
he's also used to doing most of his work under agricultural exemption, and the fact that this wasn't exempt was sort of a first time in a long time.
Okay. Any questions, Deb?
No questions.
Yeah.
No questions.
All right, motion.
I'll move that we issue the COC request.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242 236, PCOC request at 325 Appleton Street.
So this is, an oldie but a goodie, not released from the subdivision. There is a wetland on the adjacent lot, and there's a drainage easement on this lot. Both are shown on as-built plans in the file. Heidi did go and inspect. There was no further requirements for this particular lot, so I think it deserves its PCOC. Are you the owner or the?
No, I'm just for the record, I'm Attorney Tim Hooton.
Hi.
Oh,
And
Tim.
just wanted to, you may not think this, but I just want to apologize. I had a previously scheduled vacation day. I don't think I've attended a board meeting without a suit on in 40 years, so I just do apologize the way I look, but.
We're business casual here, Counselor.
Any questions?
I have no questions.
Fred?
No question.
I have no questions also. Motion.
I'll move it.
PCOC.
Yes.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Next one is,
Can I get my,
fourth
or somebody get my photos back just before I forget them?
floor. Yeah.
So for the enforcement order, Heidi went by today and, oh, great. Somehow the building got alarmed.
Did you go out?
So,
I guess that's not the door to go out.
which
Oh,
door
did you leave it by a different, straight back?
Left.
Oh, yeah, no, that's alarmed.
So, it's
So
okay.
the police will be here shortly.
You go ahead and leave, and we'll wait for the fire department.
Go straight out that
All
way.
right. So why don't you put us on break for a minute, okay?
during resource area, when you have erosion control, like, we're not working on a slope.
Alright.
We're not working with connections to the river. All of this work is occurring in pavement, quite a distance from resource area. If you think it's worth more than 5,000, then I understand.
I'm
but
asking the
I don't do
question.
this kind of work, so I have no idea what it would cost us to
So
do
I'm
anything.
gonna defer to Lou. He does this kind of work somewhat. If we had to step in and fix this,
I mean, I'm thinking the environmental impact versus the stabilize the site.
well, stabilizing is what a job would be, stabilize the site. If we had to stabilize the site and protect the river, that's our goal.
Yeah,
Look at that as just a small part of what we need to do.
yeah, I just.
$5,000 enough to do it?
I don't think so.
So that's the test.
I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a little heavier bond just for the sake of having it. I mean, if they do what they're supposed to do, they get their money back. Don't you think so?
Well, they get their money back, but they gotta wait forever and a day to get their money back.
Well, I don't think this project's gonna take a long time to do.
No, but still, even after they're done,
Takes like a
they have
month
to file
or
a
more.
certificate of compliance, get that approved, and then they gotta wait for the town to pay them back.
That
How
happens.
long's the town gonna hang on to the money before they pay them back?
Well, they
It's
give.
about a
Usually
month.
pretty good.
They
It's
give
about
it
a
right.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh?
It's about a month after the COC.
It takes a month? Jesus. I don't know. Maybe not.
I was gonna say 10, but I mean, if you don't think that's,
I don't do the work. All I'm saying is, it's, when I look at projects, I look at proximity to resource area. All of their digging and all of their work for the tanks is over 100 feet from resource area.
okay, it's just, like I said, I'm very nervous about
Okay.
oil and potential spillage and,
I'll tell you that the Winthrop Street one on the Shawshene River was 25,000.
right, so let's go with 10.
I would agree, 10,000.
Okay, 10 it is. So, stormwater conditions, we did put in, just erosion control per their construction period, pollution, and erosion and sedimentation control. Section of the NOI. They have an O&M, which is referenced here. Their approved dewatering is condition 60 and refers to the, I always, fractionation tanks is how they're listed. Stockpile materials, condition 65, soil shall be placed on and covered with poly sheeting to limit erosion of the piles. Shall be manifested and transported off-site in accordance with Massachusetts law. That's in their NOI.
They know that to them.
Condition number 71 is, we have no underground storage of fuel oil shall be allowed within 100 feet of wetland resource area. This is a fuel, so I put in with the exception of the existing tanks, even though they're not in, technically, they're in riverfront area, but they're not technically in the 100-foot buffer zone to bank. So I'm just saying basically no additional tanks within 100 feet. So the second part of that is, in addition, the applicant shall be responsible for adhering to the herein referenced oil spill prevention plan. The plan shall be available on site at all times, and all staff contractors shall be educated in the use of the spill control system. I think Jack was really concerned about that. I think we should have no stockpiling signs where that outlet structure is, because no one should be putting, and then it's all the standard conditions after that. And they're all referenced on the last page.
Okay, any questions?
No question.
Motion?
Move that we approve DEP file number 242-1680 as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. If I'm around, if they do this, to do this site.
I put you in there. You actually are in the pre-construction that, prior to doing the paving portion of it, not the whole pre-construction, but the paving portion, they need to have you and I out there. It's an actual condition.
Okay.
Mac?
Because I'm not, I want to make sure that spillway is.
I'm with you.
is-
I think it's a small part of the overall project, but to me, it's a big deal, because that's the direct right down to the river.
Yeah, and if it's fractured and stuff getting in the soil before it makes the river,
Right.
that's no good.
There it is. All right, good.
So the last thing on the agenda, and I can't find it, but West Mill came to us again with some minor drainage changes. As they get more into the site, some of the older structures they're coming across they can't use, and they are modifying the plans to put in new structures in those locations. So before bringing it to you, I had Lisa review it. She agreed that it's all, worth changing out the old structures for new structures. But the question is, it does, now change the plans. They provided us with those plans. Do we need a formal modification, or because we did put into they're coming to us because we put in a specific condition in the order of conditions that said any changes to the plans, regardless of whether they were, changing pipe sizes and they did come to us when they decided to do the layout differently, but this is literally down to the level of changing structures. So there were structures there, and there are now structures still proposed. It's just a matter of...
Well, it should just be documentation.
So that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Can they just submit the documentation, or do you want them to formally come and present it before you?
No, I would just say submit the documentation.
What about review, though?
So Lisa did review. Lisa
So
has
it's
reviewed.
pre-reviewed?
Yes. So I have her letter right here. I've reviewed these proposed modifications and the 614 summary letter from Horsley Witten and concur that they are minor changes that will not impact the proposed stormwater management on the site. I recommend approval.
Okay,
And so...
that's fine.
I agree.
How many are there?
Okay.
I agree.
No,
So-
don't go crazy. I'm just curious.
It's a good, so right.
There are 5 changes.
5.
They're mostly pipe things.
Well, there'll probably be further changes as they.
So
Yeah.
one is,
Sure.
pipe overflow from Bio 4 is proposed to run east to connect to new drain manhole 1.1.1 due to conflict with existing underground utility lines near the cooling tower. So they basically dug up and found something. They can't go one way, they're gonna have to go another.
Well, the thing is, just have them documented and date
So,
it and
Yep, I've got
attach her
revised.
letter with it
Yep,
Right.
and keep it
so I will
on
just
file.
put approved
Yeah.
6/22/16 at meeting. Okay, and this will go in the file. I keep a file of modifications, so we'll have that. All right, decisions.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn. right?
Oh,
Can
sorry.
we move to adjourn?
We can?
I'll move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.